Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast where we help independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And we are going on a little bit of a trip in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward
We
to
are.
it.
We
Yeah,
are.
we're jumping right into the appetizer.
How far away is the trip for you?
Well, it depends on if I'm heading out from, I'll probably head out from my studio because
Yeah.
I'm a workaholic. Probably shouldn't be proud of that. I'm not proud of that. In fact, I'm only a workaholic until I don't have to be. Hopefully next year. Yeah, so it's really close from there. If I come from Cannes, it's about 40 minutes of a drive.
Yeah.
Should probably say what we're doing. We're going
We're going disc golfing. Yeah. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
As a last hurrah to all of Brandon's discs before he sells them.
I'm selling, 16 of them. Actually, somebody wants to buy 3 of them tomorrow.
Did he actually, are they going to follow through on it?
I don't know.
Because how many mishaps have you had?
Like 4?
4.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, wait till
Last
you
we
hear
talked, it
about
was
all the
2.
mishaps with the computer. Oh my God, bro.
Is that thing still here?
It's not here right
Okay.
now. I'm
But you didn't sell it.
possibly selling it tonight
Oh.
to somebody that actually wants to get into music production. He's going to go to Full Sail.
Okay, that's a loaded statement. I got to process all that.
I know, right?
He wants to buy a 2011 MacBook for full sale.
He wants to buy a 2011 Mac to get used to the infrastructure of the operating system.
Okay.
So he thinks it's a good practice computer. I said, it's a great practice computer, but you're going to have to get something else. I made sure to tell him that I don't rip people off on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, bro, you're going to want to get something newer. He's like, I think Full Sail provides you with a computer.
Well, you're paying a lot for it.
You are paying a lot.
So it better.
A lot of money.
So I guess like how much does a MacBook Pro like that, or Mac Pro or whatever like that go for?
An
I
iMac?
guess?
Yeah. Surprisingly, they hold their value. That goes from $150 to $200.
That's a good chunk for a practice PC.
I know.
I mean, you could get a Mac Home for like $400.
Sean, are you ruining my sale?
Only if you listen to this podcast. I mean, you don't get the monitor, you don't get the keyboard.
It's true.
You don't get the warm fuzzy feeling knowing that you're supporting Brandon in his endeavors.
Yeah.
So that's really the important.
You don't get to meet me, which sucks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a life devoid of me, like terrible.
And that's why you tune in every week, isn't
that's
it?
right.
Yeah.
That's
all
right.
the Brandon, all the time.
But like
The Brandon show.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, he just said he wants to get used to a practice computer and just try it out. I was like, okay, this will serve you well for a secondary computer if you ever need one. Like you can surf the internet, you can listen to music or whatever. I'm like, you can't really do anything else. That's what you're gonna get. Yeah. So he understands that. I made sure to lay all that out for him, and now we're just gonna meet up, make the exchange, and be done.
Cool.
So it'll be out of here. But
Facebook Market's powerful. We started with disc golf, but I like the way this is going.
I do
more,
too.
Because
I do too.
Facebook Marketplace is very powerful. I got my bass off Facebook Marketplace.
Nice.
I picked up a couple other stuff on it. Couple microphones. Like I got this actually 7B off of Marketplace. There's another one right now around us that's $250 for SM7B inbox and a cloud lifter.
really,
$250.
oh, you shouldn't have told me that.
It's still live.
I'm gonna go find it.
Go find it after this. Because
I don't really need
if
it.
I had the budget, I would buy it.
Yeah.
Because like if I am gonna have a podcast room in the future, going
Be a
into
perfect
backing stuff.
opportunity.
Perfect opportunity.
Perfect opportunity.
Get 2 7B.
RE20s are better though, Sean. So whatever.
Says the guy talking into
I
a
know,
7B. Do you have an RE20? Jesus. Whenever I hear the RE20, I think of Resident Evil.
I think that's fair.
Evil.
It looks
20.
like something very alien-y and I know Resident Evil's not aliens, but like
I thought you were going to say phallic for a second.
it does look phallic. It does look phallic.
Oh, man. 10 minutes of just... No, it hasn't been quite 10 minutes.
I don't think it's been 10 minutes.
No. But no, Facebook Marketplace is a killer of a place to find some good music
great.
gear. So if you're looking for to buy any new gear before you go to like Sweetwater or Guitar Center, first off, we don't have one currently, but first circle back to all of our stuff. We might have affiliate links by the time if you're listening to this in the future. So help us out first. But if not,
please, that'd be awesome.
No. But if not,
seriously,
Facebook Marketplace, you find some killer shit. It's an underrated marketplace.
It is. You have to be willing to sit through all the bullshit too. There's a lot. I think I got in one day like 10, 15 inquiries about my computer. And I think at least 75% of them were bots. At least. It was terrible, man. It was awful. And I was like, I might just accept the first offer. And then they lowballed me. I was like, I'm not accepting the first offer.
Like what, $50?
It was $100.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm selling it for 160. So I was like,
give me a computer for $50 and a Kit Kat.
yeah. I was like, bro, like you're not gonna do this to me, man. Like, no way.
Oh,
no way. So
a question though, actually. So if he's going to Full Sail, is he going to music production or
I think it's music production.
Okay. Do you think that computer is powerful enough to put together an electronic press kit?
I do think it is.
Yeah.
I do think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we should talk about electronic press kits so that when he does get the computer, he can listen to it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So an electronic press
Transition.
kit. That was great. That was great. EPK for short, because that's how we're going to shorten this, because saying electronic press kit is a lot.
Electronic press kit. It's still 3 syllables.
EPK, electronic press kit.
I guess electronic is 2.
Electronic
yeah.
press kit.
I'm just going to call it the EPK.
EPK sounds like something you'd get through a really bad night.
Yeah.
You know?
It kind of does.
Yeah.
Man, I feel bad for the pop. That's going to be
like, bro, unfortunately, you have EPK.
I'm sorry, dude. People are gonna know about your music. It's unfortunate. You're gonna get jobs and blog posts about you. And I'm so sorry.
Awful.
But
awful.
No, before we jump into this, we had a realization as we were kind of planning out this whole episode. As kind of background between Brandon and I, I'm more in. I have history in live sound, as in doing a lot of local concert series, doing a couple of venues, both small and larger, and also a couple of festivals.
Yeah.
So when I think of EPKs, well, plus my genre is folk and folk rock and very, group of musician, like the performance. Live is a huge aspect of those kinds of genres. It's a huge aspect of every genre, but especially those.
Yeah.
So when I think of EPK, I pretty much have only heard it and seen them in the context of live. And I was talking to Brandon about it, and he was putting in his notes, and he's got a little bit of a different history.
Yeah. So my history with it is almost the exact opposite of Sean's, where I'm used to it being something you send off to publications, to journalists, radio stations, things of that nature. So you have like one set of portfolio, and you end up sending them off to, let's say, a blog when a new single comes out or something like that. That's the way that I'm used to presenting an EPK. So, and both ways are valid. Obviously, they both have their place, and which we didn't even plan on doing like separate EPKs, but like now we are kind of going to do that because like it actually makes sense, because what you'll include in a EPK you send to a venue versus what you might send to a publication, especially if it's like specific, they're going to be different. And you don't want to bloat your EPK so it makes it tough for people to sift through it and go through what they need to know. So we're going to talk about tailoring it to these specific situations and making sure that your EPK is up to its highest standard, because I'm going to harp on this a lot. I think I told you this before we're going to start, is that EPKs will open up a lot of opportunity for you. And if you don't present this correctly, it could shut down a lot of opportunities for you. Or if you don't have one, then you won't have a lot of opportunities. Like,
it can be hard. It can be hard to convince the people that you're trying to convince to either have you for the show or to write an article about you or to, promote your music on their platforms.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's kind of start back.
Let's do it.
Break a little bit before we really dive into it. An electronic press kit is just kind of a collection of information and assets geared towards people in the industry to tell them all about what you are and show them things you've done, the places you've been, what your music is, what your style is, and just everything about you. It's a way of putting what you are in a condensed format to easily showcase yourself to whoever you're sending it to.
Yep.
Which is kind of why we're going to dive into, well, if you're sending it to a blogger or a newspaper journalist or whatever versus a live venue, you're going to want slightly different ones, because you're going to be talking and showcasing different parts of you to get them interested, and that apply specifically to what they're interested
Exactly.
So that's kind of quickly explain what an EPK is. And now I'm going to let Brandon kind of take it away.
Yeah. First, I want to say that was a great definition. That was way better than what I had written down.
You have a definition written down?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Yours was way better. And I don't even want to say mine because now I'm self-conscious.
All right,
so excellent job. Excellent job. So like Sean was saying, it's a collection of material. You have all in one place that it's easily accessible for somebody to open and know who you are and what you do. On my side of things, it's a little bit different in terms of what you might provide, as we spoke about before. But before we go into that, I think a good way to look at an EPK is look at it like a resume for yourself. If you have no other specific EPKs than your general EPK, so the top of the hierarchy is your just standard go-to EPK, right? Your standard portfolio. It's not specialized. It's just general about who you are, who your brand is, who your band is, and whatever else you might need in there. That is like your resume and your portfolio built into one place. And it's really important to have that because it showcases your prior work. It showcases who you are, like we spoke about before. And it's very important to have it all in one place where it's super easily accessible. And I know I've said this a lot so far, but I really want to put this in perspective because depending on how you present this can ruin or it can make opportunities for you in the future. So you might be thinking like, okay, I'm going to open up a folder onto my computer and put a bunch of stuff in there. That's great. I think you should have that as a backup. Your first one should be built onto a website or onto an app. No, you can send stuff to people and maybe some people might still operate like that, but the chances of them downloading it, unzipping it, and going through it are very slim to none. It's just so much harder. There's a barrier, there's a friction there, right? And it makes it so much harder for people to sift through and then take space up on their computer so they have to delete it later or like put it in a specific folder. That's too much. It's too much.
Plus, it makes it harder to present it in the way that aligns with your brand if you have it as a collection of folder or assets. Now, in your EPK, you should have assets available for whoever you're sending it to download that's relevant to them. Like if you're sending, like you're going to get into it later, but if you're going to a blog, you might want to include assets of like, they can be able to download your photos. So they can use that in their posts or also venues of your photos. So they can put it in, hey, we got this band tonight on their Instagram and they can have like your photo or whatnot. If they're a venue that does stuff like that.
Exactly.
You want to be able to give them assets that they need. And as I said, like you kind of want it on a website. You want it to be able to be digitally accessible so that it doesn't take up space. You can have it all structured and organized the way you want it so that you can say, hey, look at this information first, this information next. You could structure it in a way that grabs attention and puts them through the information you want them to go through. So just kind of talk about a quick way of how you can do that is that most website platforms, be it Bandzoogle, Squarespace, Wix, or whatever it is, gives you the option of having hidden pages.
Yes.
And a hidden page is basically just a page that isn't directly accessible from your main website page. So you can create a hidden page and then have that hidden pages URL that you can send in emails whenever you're reaching out. And that is the link to your EPK. And that just opens up the page on their end so they can see all the information that you lay out there. And it's great to do it on a website platform like what I just listed because you can do things like you can embed audio for them to listen to your portfolio or whatnot. We'll get into more of the weeds later.
Exactly.
And you can also, let's say you're really big or you get a lot of attention and you don't want people who aren't supposed to see your EPK because it's full of assets and stuff. You don't want them to access it, just random people to. You can actually put these pages behind passwords.
Yes, you can.
And whatnot. So you can just email them and give them the passwords so you know, hey, random people aren't going to find this. My fans aren't going to be able to pull this up and grab shit from me, download the songs or whatever. You can put them behind a password and kind of protect it. So most website platforms have this functionality.
Exactly. And what Sean was saying with the hidden links, it's just like how, I don't know if anybody has ever uploaded a video to YouTube. I'm pretty sure almost all of America has at one point or another. America. It's similar to how you select your privacy on your video. You have your standard or you have your public that goes to the public that everybody can see and search and find. Then you have unlisted, which people can get to by just a link. I
believe so. Like if they have the URL, if they have the link, then they can go there.
And then private is like I think you have to put in like a specific email or something along the lines of that where you can't access it without having specific permissions.
You have to ask for permission. Kind of like, so if you think about a Google Drive, when you share a file, you can set it as private, public, or however.
Exactly. So basically what you'd be doing is making an unlisted page on your website. And then that way it won't show up, like Sean was saying, on your site under a menu or a subtitle or whatever. And it won't show up on search engines as well. So it's not like anybody can actually stumble across it and then have access to all of your assets that are very important and actually can be misused.
You don't want to SEO your...
No way. Yeah, no way. Yeah, you do not want to SEO that
your,
at all.
EPK.
Yeah, that's one of the few things you don't want to SEO on your website, you know? So,
well, and just you might be thinking, well, like, why does it matter if my fans can grab my assets or whatnot? If you've got like high res or vector images of your logos and whatnot for posters or banners and whatnot that can be downloaded, well, now anyone can download it and make high quality, like fake merch of what you're doing. Or if you have high quality images of your album art or whatever, they can, you know, I know there's a scene of bootleg vinyl and things like that.
Yeah.
I think they can be kind of cool. And
for sure.
And if you want your community to kind of do things like that, you can kind of leak certain things or try to push things to happen, but you want to be able to control that at least as much as you can.
Exactly.
So likely, in all likelihood, especially when you're starting off, these things aren't going to happen. So password protected is not hugely important, but after a while, you might want to consider that.
Yep. Totally agree. 100%. So you might be thinking, what do I include in this EPK? Well, that's a great question. That's what we're going to talk about next.
Well, no, I'm supposed to say, Brandon, that's a great question. What do you put in the EPK?
I did answer myself. Yeah, let's start that over. So what do we, wait.
No, you asked the question.
Okay. So you might be thinking, what do we put in an EPK?
That is a great question, Brandon. What should we put in an EPK?
That is the ultimate question, right?
You're a great podcaster.
You're so good at this. So we're going to take this from the point of view of somebody that just released an album, and we're going to send it off to publications, bloggers, playlists, whatever. So first thing that you're going to want to include is all your official links and where to find you. So that includes your website. And if your EPK is on your website, like we just told you, it probably should be, then that one is kind of self-explanatory, but you should still include it anyways. Include all of your links to social media websites. That includes X and Threads. We are up to date on that. I promise. Don't go back and listen to episode.
No,
or you can
listen to our social media episode.
We were outdated the day after. So
oh yeah, literally 2 days before we posted our second episode, they released Threads.
Yeah,
and then like a week later they changed it from Twitter to X. But what we talked about were general practices.
Yes, 100%.
Listen to
links
it.
to all, please. Links to all your streaming platforms. Everything that you've released music on, which you should be releasing on probably every platform, unless there's some value conflict or something like that, whatever. So you want to make sure people can find you. Number 2, you want to have a well-written biography. I personally would want to hire somebody to do this for myself. It's really hard to write your own biography. I've done it before, and it feels almost like, it depends on how you write it, right? So like your tone of the copywriting and your copywriting style really kind of goes into that. But like you want to make sure that it's cohesive with your brand and how you want to present yourself. And biographies are typically like usually the first line of presenting you, right? Because people want to go and read about you. So I recommend hiring somebody to copyright, or you could have beautiful ChatGPT help you out and kind of go through it like that. But whatever you're trading in time will be traded in dollars for a copywriter. So just make sure that you're doing what you need to do for yourself and what best suits you. The next one the next information you're going to want to have in there is any touring information that includes past, present, and future information. So if you have a tour coming up, make sure to include that in there. And I would say make sure that you disclose if you want that announced or not, depending on who you're sending it to, because you might have not announced those dates yet, right? So make sure that does come with a caveat. If you're currently on tour, make sure you have those dates listed in there or whatever the case may be, because the publication, if they're close to you, might pull that date. Let's say you're going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin or something, and the publication's in Milwaukee, they might pull that date and put that in the article for you. So that's really important to have. So if people read that, they might come to your show. Or some past information. If you've already done a tour, let's say you just finished up a tour 3 months ago, you'll want to talk about that tour a little bit and maybe do a small recap or something in there, right?
Do some callbacks about it, especially if you are on tour and you are going to Milwaukee and you're reaching out to a like a college paper in Milwaukee of, hey, I'm going to be here this date. Here's my EPK. You might want to add notes of previous dates if you've already done some dates and say, this is the kind of vibe we had. Here's some other shots of that event. So they can reference it in the article about, hey, this is what's coming. This is what's coming to town.
Exactly.
This is how it's been built up. This is the story behind it. And it helps, there's more of that story, that information behind it than just, here's the date.
Yep. And just calling it a day, right? Because like that doesn't really mean anything too much, except that you were there on that date or will be there on that date. The next thing you're going to want to include is a quick fact sheet. And this one is interesting because this one can take on so many different forms. And I think over time, you'll be able to refine this. So publications and interviewers and stuff like that will often ask you overlapping questions. And once you see this trend kind of develop, you'll be able to have those kind of built out in this quick fact sheet. This also includes, though, things like, where are you from? Where's the band from? When did you guys form? Or how did you guys meet? You know, very simple things, softball things that you're going to probably get asked a lot, right? Because like people want to identify you. They want to form a connection with you when you're doing these interviews and things like that. And a lot of interviews, by the way, too, with these publications end up actually not being interviews. You actually end up typing out your interview most of the time. Like they will send you questions. They'll be like, hey, just respond to this and type it out. I've done that before for people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so when they say we want to interview you, just maybe know that you might not actually be getting interviewed.
What kind of interviews? Is it a phone interview, video interview, text interview?
Yeah. And most of the time I find that it's just answer these questions and we'll publish it. But then that gives you free reign though, right? So then you can kind of talk about whatever you want. So it's kind of a like there's a little bit of a catch there with the fact sheet, but as you do these more, you'll find a trend and you'll be able to answer these questions right off rip. The next one is send your lyrics with your album. This one is good, especially if you're getting the album like almost like reviewed or dissected by a publication.
If it's a music blogger,
or
especially, or whatnot.
Or if it's a YouTuber doing it,
exactly.
Right? Like, and then they can pull quotes from there. I mean, they could probably go find it on Lyric Genius, which I always recommend that you at least choose Lyric Genius in my opinion, that they are like probably the most popular lyric website right now. You should always publish your lyrics to there post-release. But
is that the one that ties into Spotify?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
I just want to double check that.
Yeah. And you should always post there. But like we were saying before, a lot of this is about how you present your EPK, and you don't want people having to go find information on the back end of things, because that just makes them less likely to put in either better effort or put in any time at all. Like you might miss the opportunity in the first place. So just include your lyrics. And then if you have any standout lyrics that you personally enjoy, maybe make a note of them. Might be kind of easy for them to pull quotes out of there. And then you get stuff that you like highlighted out of there too, right? So you showcase your best work.
So would it also be a good idea to maybe have, however you're presenting your lyrics, have notes that relate to certain parts of the song?
Yeah.
So like, I know in the past episode, we mentioned up a local band here, Water Fountain Coins, how at the end of their set, they always play Miss Misery, and they open it up with, if the song, if you know the song, sing it. And if it matters to you, fucking scream it.
Yeah.
You can put notes like
Which
that.
Which is great, by the way. That's so good.
It's such a good line.
So good.
Which is why I'm saying it again.
Yeah.
Check out the music. But you can put things like that and say like, hey, when we're doing this live, we do this. Or we start this song by saying this, or when this song when this part of the song happens, the crowd sings along, or we'll do this in the crowd. I did a show with another local artist, Kevin Allen, and
love Kevin.
Halfway through his set, we did 2 songs where it was a smaller venue. I think like Blind Pig can fit 250, 200.
Sounds about right.
Anyways, we walked off the stage. The drummer picked up a djembe. I had a shaker, and Kevin had his acoustic and singing. And we literally walked into the middle of the crowd, formed a circle around it, and then just did an acoustic jam for a couple of songs. Not amplified at all, so people had to be quiet to listen to it. It was a really, really cool vibe.
Yeah.
You can put that in like, hey, this song we perform acoustic. This song we do this. So that when someone is posting about it or reviewing it, they can talk about the story behind it of, hey, it's not just this song. It's like, this song is a unique experience at these events. And that helps people want to come to these events to experience them.
Yeah. So cool. And like tie a video to it too, if you can.
If you have one, for sure.
If you have one, you know, because like those moments are really cool and might make people want to come out to your show, or at least explore you a little bit further. Like, oh, cool. That's really unique.
And even if even if the person who you're sending the CPK to doesn't repost that video or whatnot, having interesting things like that make you stand out from more than just another band, at the very least, it can cause whoever's reading it to be more intrigued and interested in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the more interested they are in you, the more detailed and objective, like the more they look into what your EPK is saying, the more invested they get into you, and the more favorable and passionate the write-up is going to be. It's not just going to be like, this band does this band does this. Because these people, you know, if their job is to write blogs on musicians and songs are, I keep using blog as a thing, but that's just the way I'm saying it.
Yeah.
If this is their job, they get submissions all the time. They're writing things all the time. They always have bands coming through, or anything you can do to make yourself stand out and get the person who is reading this EPK interested and invested and excited about what you do, the better. Even if they don't repost it or talk about it, if they're more intrigued in your story and what you're doing, that is a win in of itself.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And honestly, I think this goes even a step further too, is like after this person works with you and does the publication and stuff like that, they might be more inclined to stay updated with you later, and they might want to invite you back for more spots on their publication. It all depends on how well you present this and how much time you kind of put into this too, because like there are a lot of different ends that just kind of tie up and just make cohesive with each other, and that kind of goes back to also like making your brand very strong. And this is almost the front line of your band, so like, or your brand, besides for you. So this
is the front line of people in the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah. The fans will see the website. People in the industry will see your EPK.
Exactly. So do your best. Do what you can. Get creative with it. You are a creative, so be creative with it. The next thing you should add, kind of goes without saying if you're promoting an album, but album art, all qualities, high res. If you want to like do specific sizing, you can do that too, but I'm sure these companies would do that for you. But make sure that it's like high res. Like please make sure it's at least 3000 by 3000 pixels. Anything less than that, I would say is probably not great.
You mean 300 by 300 is not going to be good enough?
Probably not in this case, unless you're going to use it as your Xbox gamer tag logo. But make sure it's high res and that people can use it. Include your logo too if you want. This would be very specific instances, but I would, just in case. Like I said, the less people have to ask for anything from you, the better. But you also don't want to make it too bloated. So just make sure that it's off to the side somewhere or easily accessible in case that is needed. The next thing,
kind of like how you have a section for quick fact sheets where they can go to get answers to questions. You want a section for assets of if you need any of this, this is where to look. So it's really quick and well organized.
Exactly. Yep. The next thing is maybe you should include your music. I think that's probably pretty important, but the way that you include your music is the most important way. Don't make them downloads. You can if you want on your website, but I wouldn't send downloads to anybody because they're not getting downloaded. I'll tell you that right now. Make sure that it's on a easily accessible platform. And I'm not talking like Spotify or Apple Music, because those are all segregated into their own thing because they're pay for play, right? But you want to make sure that it's on YouTube. Everybody has access to YouTube. Everybody has access to SoundCloud. Don't upload to SoundCloud. It sounds like shit. Everybody has access to Reverb Nation. Everybody has access to Bandcamp. Make sure that these platforms are being used to showcase your music. Don't get specific with it. Don't get specific, because you will alienate somebody that doesn't have Apple Music, or you will alienate somebody that doesn't have Spotify. So
that being said, a lot of these website builders have the ability to embed players from these players. So you can embed an Apple Music player. You can embed a Spotify player or a YouTube player. Oftentimes it slows down the website, so it's not the best way of doing it, but it is a way to have your music played if you do still want to be able to keep track of what's being played on these platforms or whatnot. So you can always embed it, and that way, even if they don't have Spotify, they can still listen to it through the website because it's an embedded player.
Exactly. And I think something important,
don't take them off site though.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say is something important that I want to add to that is to make sure that you try not to take this person off of your site, because there are a lot of distracting things on the opposite side of these sites, right? So like you have your whole recommended on YouTube on the right hand side, and it's very easy to be like, oh, that looks interesting, and then click it, and then the attention's gone, right? The whole immersion is gone in your music. And actually, depending on how you present your EPK, like let's say you do like a whole theme, you do like a roadmap or something cool, right? You can embed these specific songs throughout, right? It doesn't have to be all in one section, like here's my music. It can be like, here's this song, oh, here's the map to this one, and then it's like, here's how it correlates here, and you can get really creative with it. So be creative with it, but like I said, making sure it's easily accessible. So if you can't embed on your site or you do not want to, then make sure it's on at least YouTube. These next two kind of go hand in hand together. As Sean was saying, you want assets on your website. So this includes photographs and any like links to music videos, or music videos, embed the music videos on there, or embed like live performances that you've done before. This will be really important for Sean's EPK side with the live performances. Even if you have like the banter in between too, make sure you post that as well, because that's also equally as important. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, but just make sure you have good photographs that are up to date and are high res, and that you're embedding your music videos in there as well. And then the last thing that you're going to want to add, but certainly probably not least thing, I'm probably forgetting at least one or two things, but you're going to want to add any press coverage you've gotten up to this point, just because like that helps kind of bolster what you've done before in the past. It gives you a more credibility on the back end of things, and actually it does make people take you more seriously. And you can kind of showcase like, oh, I was able to interview with this magazine, and now here's what we said about this. And then this will actually kind of give a little bit of inclination to whoever's writing about you in this case, like what has already been talked about, and maybe even explore a different angle on your story.
And then another thing that actually that does is if you put links to other press things that you've done, then the person who's writing the new article can skim through it to reference that past article if they want. And if they link to previous interviews you've done or previous covers of your music that you've participated in, well, now that actually has more links that go back to your other stuff, and that builds your SEO as a musician overall. And it helps solidify you under search engines of this person is worthy of putting towards the top whenever someone searches these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So that's another perk of putting in your past press coverage and things like that. It helps bolster the back end.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And that's really important because
Google builds your credit.
It builds your social credit score, right? That's really important because Google is very finicky about their SEO. So the more stuff you have talking about you, hopefully in a good light, the more likely it is to be seen by people that might just stumble across it, right? So sum up here. I want to go back over the list one more time. You want to include all your official links and where to find you. You want to include a well-written biography. You want to include touring information. You want to include a quick fact sheet, your lyrics, album art, your music with links that are easily accessible or embedded, photographs, link to music videos or live performances, or have those embedded on your site, and then any press coverage you have up to this point. I think that's like about 10 things. And like I said, this is from the aspect of looking at EPKs through the lens of releasing an album. There are certainly different ways we're about to get into. I want to make 3-4 quick points. And I know I've said this already, but I really want to drive it home. Make sure your EPK has the least amount of barriers as possible. Make sure it's frictionless. It's very easy to find, easy to access, and information can be accessed quickly and cohesively. Number 2, make sure it's presented professionally. Like I said, if you're sending an EPK with a folder, like a zip folder, that's probably not the best way to do it, but you should have a copy of it just in case, barring your website goes down, God forbid, right? You will at least have access to that just in case something comes up later, right? So you should have a copy on your desktop or in a hard drive somewhere tucked away just in case, but you're probably not going to touch that. It's just not how efficient things are done these days. There are more efficient ways. Number 3, you should have your EPK ready at all times and always updated, because opportunities will pass you by. If first of all, you don't have one. If you don't have one, you're kind of screwed right off the bat, because what are you going to go do? Make one really sloppily? Then that kind of hurts things in the long run. You could probably still get the gig if you did that, right? But you should probably be prepared up to this point and make sure you have one that's refined and well polished.
Caveat: I'm gonna argue with you really quickly here, because I feel like it. At the same time, yes, it is good to put in the time and make sure that your EPK represents you as best as possible. At the same time, like anything in the world, but you've experienced with your music, when you start, it's not going to be perfect. Right. It's going to take time. So it's better done than perfect. So if the best you can do is to sloppily put one together for the gig, still better to have one,
right?
Than to not. And especially if you are having it as an unlisted site on your website, if you have a website already, Well, you probably have a bio on your website. You can add things from there. You probably already have a color scheme. You can add things from there. You probably already have photos. You can add things from there. So just put together one quickly, and you can always fledge it out. I think that's the right way of saying it.
That works.
Yeah, but you can always add to it later, refine it later, and as you're going to say in a bit, make ones for specific kinds of things you're submitting to. But it's going to be a process.
It is.
So
yeah. And you should go through refinements, right? So like, but you should always be doing your best to put it together. I think that's kind of like what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, don't put one together so quickly. But it's like, you should already be thinking about this before that even becomes a thing, right?
So you're saying don't settle on it.
Don't settle on it, but also like make sure you just put time and care into it before it gets to a point where you need to rush and put one together.
Yeah.
Because like where opportunity meets preparation, that's luck, right? And that's luck. And you want to make sure that you are ready when that time comes, right? Even if it is one page on your website, one photo, and you have like one song, you know, you can add on to that. It's like how Sean and we build out our portfolios on our site, and then we go through quarterly and refine them. We were just talking about that before we started the show. And finally, I want to make one more point. You can make EPKs for all different sorts of things. You can have a general one. You can have one for a new single. You can have one for a new album. You can make one specifically for specific publications or specific bloggers. Or you can make one for booking live shows. And that's where we're going to turn over to Sean right now and hear his side of the EPK.
That's where all my experience is with it. As you're saying, if you flesh it out and take the time to make them specifically for specific applications that you're sending it to, that really adds in more so to making it as easy to access as possible for whoever is receiving it. They know, hey, all of this is pertinent to the information that I need to know from this band. So it is good to eventually have separate ones or specific things that have information specifically to where you're sending it to. And the more you do it, the more you know what kind of things they look for, what kind of things are positive to have.
Exactly.
But yeah, so all my experience with EPKs is in the setting of live. A band will send it to get booked for the venue, for the festival, for the concert series, whatever. I've seen probably, I don't know, at least several dozens of EPKs over the past couple of years, probably like 100 or so. And they're all varying different qualities. And when I say EPK is light, is I don't mean it necessarily as a EPK as we discussed it. There have been times where we've gotten links to Facebook pages.
Yeah.
This is our band. Here's a link to a Facebook page. And the second video is something that someone tagged them in of the camera's facing them and they're just drunk off their ass, falling off the stool. You don't really necessarily want a potential someone booking you to see that.
You do not want any disqualifiers.
It doesn't present you in a certain way. And that's all the way up to,
or maybe you do want disqualifiers. Maybe. So yeah.
And then sometimes they'll just send the website. Well, the website is better, but it's not necessarily specific towards what we want and giving all the information that a venue will need, especially if they're doing things like promotion or whatnot. Because if you're sending it to a promoter who does a bunch of different shows and wants to put together assets for, you know, the upcoming shows and promotion and all that, then they're going to need more than just a link to the website, because you can't really download all these assets off the website. So when I say EPK, I've seen the whole gamut, the whole scale of we don't have one. Here's our Facebook, to here's this really nice one that we spent time and put together. And sometimes even the really nice ones that have a lot of time put into it can be off-putting depending on how they're presented and depending on what kind of information they think is important that needs to be sent by. If you're sending it to someone who is talking about your music, like a YouTube influencer, talking about a musician, YouTube music influencer or whatever, or a blogger or whatnot, they're going to want more polished things. You're going to want to send them like your music videos and things like that really represent you in a full life, in a full light of how you, like, your whole professional. I am not Englishing well.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, you're going to want to include things like that. If you're sending it to a music venue, they're going to want to see things about you that pertain to their venue. How you interact with the crowd, how you sound and perform live, what's energy there, what kind of people are showing up, what is your draw, things like that.
What does your merch booth look like?
What does your merch booth look like? Do you have one? How big of a space is it going to take up? Like, do we have space for it? Things like that. And there's other information that you're going to want to include in your EPK that we are going to start covering now.
Real quick, before we get into it.
Okay, I mean, we're going to start covering it later because Brandon has something to say.
I do have something to say. You reminded me about one crucial thing about having your EPK on your website. And if you try to download assets from there, so this is a little bit about website building that I'm not going to go too far into, but it, like Sean said, it actually might be beneficial for you to host those assets off somewhere else. So maybe on a Dropbox or a Google Drive folder, just because the way that website performance kind of goes, you will likely convert all your photos to web page format, and that doesn't really work too well for downloads. So you're going to want to provide the PNGs most likely, or any vectors offsite, because those will slow down your site. So
Yes.
Just real quick caveat there. You reminded me real fast. I'm so sorry. I totally detoured this. I'm the worst podcaster ever.
No, that's a helpful little tidbit. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no problem.
Helpful little tidbit.
Ooh.
We were talking about that earlier
We
too.
will talk about those later.
Oh yeah, we will. Well, anyways, I'm just going to cover real quickly 11 things that you need in your EPK. A lot of it is very similar to what Brandon covered earlier, so it's going to be pretty quick. This is a lightning round. First off, and I don't know if yours was in any particular order. I'm going to try.
Mine was not.
Yeah, I'm going to try to list them in a particular order of how you want to set up the website at the top and at the bottom. Now, this isn't necessarily what it needs to be, but this is just kind of a general idea that you can use as a template when putting yours together of what goes where. First, same thing you had, a bio, a short bio. You don't want to go too into the weeds. You don't want multiple paragraphs. Talking about your childhood.
Right.
On the 12th of December, he was born. You don't want to do any of that stuff. Because it can, you just want to go quick to, this is the hook. This is what the band's about. These are any accolades, new music, things that you have going on that can really quickly grab them in and make them want to take that next step. Because you're basically inviting them to then scroll through the rest of your EPK. Next, some photos you have, newest photos, update them regularly. You want a collection of both professionally taken photos at a studio environment, your band photo, but you also want some collection of photos of your live performance. You're going to want photos of the crowd. You're going to want photos of just events that you've been in general, maybe some photos of other lineup of festivals you've been in that showcase, hey, these are the kinds of people I've been performing with, whatnot. Just some basic things like that really quickly showcase to the person watching it, like, okay, this is what their stage looks like, this is how they perform, this is what the band looks like, it's this amount of people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these venues are going to need to know things like that, which we're going to get to later. Next, you're going to want to put videos on there, both live and like professionally recorded videos.
Yep.
As I said earlier, live is more important. Especially if you're submitting it, if you're creating an EPK just for venues,
Right.
You really want to make sure that you have a video of your live performance because the venue will want to know how you perform. So I have a theory about what the best video you can record of a live performance to really get a venue interested in booking you and give them the full idea of who you are and how you perform. Because a lot of times when we get videos, or I've seen videos from EPKs in the past, one of the biggest negatives that we ever see is silence in between songs. No one on stage is talking. They're just tuning. They're communicating with themselves. A minute between songs, or a lot of times they'll start the video off before the song, because a lot of times they'll include a video of the full song. Like, hey, here's us performing this song. It's a YouTube link. And it'll start with like 30 seconds of silence. You don't want that. Kind of like when you're performing live, you want to start with a big song to grab the audience's attention and bring them to stage, especially if you're in a venue that's all open floor, general admission, and you want to grab people from the bar to the stage to listen to you. Same thing when you're sending EPK. You want to start off the video with a bang, something that's exciting and shows the person watching it what it's about. So I recommend, if you can get a video of someone, like a fan or a family member or someone, to record the end of the last chorus of one of your most popular songs where the crowd is going crazy and you're performing the hell out of it. That's how you want to start the video, at the end of the last chorus. So right off the bat, crowd's going crazy, you're going crazy. It showcases you guys as a band, as a unit, how you're performing. And then the song ends. As the song start and end, a slow pan to the crowd. So it shows the crowd is engaged. It shows them interacting with you and being energetic. Then pan back to the stage during the break between songs. And we talked about this last episode. You want to practice some banter you say between songs. You want to practice or rehearse certain transitions or things to keep the crowd engaged. Also, ways to be grateful and give back to the venue. Let's say this is a video of a live concert series that was put on by sponsors. In this point between songs, you want to thank the sponsors.
Yep.
You want to thank the venue. You want to thank the bar. Tell people like, hey, that next song's about, having fun. So go to the bar and grab a drink with us.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Because that gets the venue excited because, you're appreciative. You're filling it with banter. It's not dead air. People are engaged the whole time. And you're showcasing the reason that you're there. For a lot of these music venues, especially a lot of these festivals, the whole point of it isn't like for the fans, the point is the music. But for the venue, the point isn't to have music. They're a business. The point is to have a recoup on costs. So they want to know, one, people will be there. So the shot of the crowd shows them, hey, people show up and they're engaged. They want to make money, especially if they're a venue that serves alcohol. That's where they make a lot of their sales.
Mm-hmm.
So that a quick thing showing appreciation and pointing them to the bar to have a good time with you showcases, hey, they want us to succeed. If it is a sponsored event and you thank the sponsors, the person who is looking at the EPK will say, they're grateful to the sponsors. And the sponsors will love that.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the venue, the person creating the event or the festival or the venue look good because then they can go to the sponsors and say, yes, this is what happened. They showcased you more because the sponsors want to be known and tied to it.
Right.
And then I said, it pans back to you, and then how you transition between that to the next song and start off again, keep the energy going. It shows that you can end a song strong. People are energized and engaged. You are thankful. You point them towards where the venue wants them to go so that they can make money or they can look good. And then it goes back to you. And it cuts off after the first verse or beginning of the song.
Yeah.
That is one of the best live videos you can showcase to a venue owner because it shows that you're energetic. You're engaging. There's no dead air. You are thankful. You have calls to action for your fans in order to support the venue and makes the venue look good. And you keep going song for song. You're not going to go. There's a lower chance of you going over the set if you're prepared. You're not taking long extended periods of time. You're not drinking between songs.
Yep.
You're not getting loose. You're not leaving it completely silent,
right.
Not cussing out. Because a lot of times we see dead air, and that is a downside. We don't. A lot in the history of the events I've worked at, we'd look less favorably on bands that don't keep a group of fans engaged.
Yep.
Any chance for them to leave, you don't want that chance. You
No
want
way.
them there the whole time because the longer they're there, the more better it is for the event.
Exactly.
So that is a great live video that you can add to your EPK. And the more you perform, the better you are going to get at all these transitions. And if you instruct somebody to shoot it like that, that's the best way of doing it. And, it's no one's expecting a live video audio quality to be fantastic.
Right.
So a lot of times it's just from a phone, but they do make quick add-ons to a phone. Like Zoom has one that's USB-C, just plugs into the bottom of the phone. That just makes it a little bit better. That also showcases how you guys sound live. You can take that route too. Just take it a little bit better, a little bit above any other competition. So that helps you stand out too. It's an investment. And they're not that expensive. A lot of times it's like $30 to $50.
Exactly.
So that's my spiel.
You'll probably use it more than once. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Any of your own promo, you're going to want that
exactly.
too. Or like before, especially if you're going to do like behind the scenes stuff, behind the stage, before the venue, showing up to the venue, you're going to want higher quality audio and stuff like that. So it's good to have things like that for your own content creation. So that was my rant and spiel about having a good live quality video.
So important.
Yeah.
Yep. That's great. Yeah. I really have nothing to add to that. I think you nailed that, dude.
Yeah.
So important.
Because a lot of times we've gotten, as I said, as I prefaced with this, we've gotten some really, really well put together EPKs, but the video that they send is in a white room with professional lighting, professional video. It's a music video.
Yeah.
It's obvious it's a music video. They're not actually playing. It's cut, so it's lip synced. So it sounds beautiful because it was recorded in the studio, but we don't know as a venue, how do you sound live?
Exactly.
That's what's important. Yep. How do you interact live? We don't care if you guys sound amazing in the studio setting because a lot of bands sound really good.
That's the studio magic, right?
Yeah. A lot of bands sound really good. What's more important is how are you when you are actually on stage and have that spotlight?
Exactly.
So that's my video rant. Next up, kind of like Brandon said, you're going to want your tour history, upcoming shows listed. Like, are you in a tour? Include the locations, the occupancy of those venues, what your draw has been, if it's sold out or not, notable locations of past performances. If you're not currently on a tour, include your past tours or just, once again, notable locations you performed, the average draw of those locations, the occupancy, like if you sold out or not. So, because you can frequently say, in this area, we've sold out venues that have 300 people. Well, then when you go to a place that has 250 or whatever, you can say like, hey, yeah, no, we're going to be good here.
Yeah.
It shows that, oh, okay, we're going to be fine. It lessens the risk that the venue takes, because the venue is always taking risk.
Exactly.
Next up, any, like your discography. As you talked about earlier, you can embed a Spotify player or any site audio player that you can use the album art as the main part of it, and they click on it, it drops down songs that are embedded into the EPK, and they can just listen to the rest of your discography. You're going to want to showcase some music. Oh, I skipped one. After photos, actually, before video, you're just going to want a quick list of 3 to 5 of your biggest songs, not your whole discography. Your whole discography can come later. But right off the bat, you want to showcase your big songs so they can listen to it. Big thing, do not auto start.
Yes, please don't. Oh my God, I hate auto start.
Do not auto start. A lot of websites have the ability to, once they open the page, it starts playing the music. Do not do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Do not do that.
I think all websites should not do that. That's just my opinion. That's just my.
Oh yeah,
I hate it so much. It's terrible.
Don't do it on a website. Don't do it on your EPK.
Yep.
Just don't do it. Because let's say they were watching something quieter and their music's turned all the way up. Boom, they're blasted, or they can't. Yeah, it's
that
just
ruins the experience.
Ruins the experience because you're taking control away from them.
Yep.
As we talked about earlier, make it as easy as possible for them to get all this information and to enjoy it. So
yep.
I need you to go back to that because that's a big thing. Don't auto start your music. But yeah, later on down the line, you can put your whole discography down there. Next, you want a separate section specifically for your accolades, kind of like Brandon was saying. Any and all impressive ones you have, like if you won Best Local Band 2022 in the Detroit Magazine, whatever.
Yeah.
Put that in there. If you got an award from a college newspaper for whatever it was, like entertaining performance or any streaming milestones you have, like, yes, the song hit 1 million streams.
Yes.
Or we have 10,000 followers on Spotify and 50,000 on Instagram or whatever. Like anything you have that could be considered impressive or helpful towards showing a location that, hey, I do have a following. People are interested in engaging in me. You want to put that in there. Any sync licensing, like if you got your song licensed for a Jeep commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge to include.
Yeah, put that in there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Jeep people know my song.
Yep.
Yeah, radio plays, like I've been on these many radio stations. They like top played song. I don't fucking know. I'm forgetting the words.
Yeah,
but
the radio station's #1. I'm top 10 at 10, or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you put down that kind of information. Next, socials. You can just put in links at the bottom, like the images of this Instagram logo, the X logo, Facebook logo, all that. You can just have the logo there, and they can just make it a clickable link. So they can just click the button, and it takes them there.
Exactly.
You don't got to get super fancy with it.
And like, don't include feeds, in my opinion. Like, just have people click on to the site. Like, that's just I think feeds look a little ugly, and they all look different. And good luck sizing them all together and get them to align. So
also, there's so much on this EPK already. We talked about earlier, as easy as you can make it to consume, the better.
Yep.
As less cluttered you can make it. Because also, since it is through a website builder, how are most people going to view this? Phone or tablet?
Yep.
That is a compressed thing too. So also, we didn't talk about this when you are building it. Before you send it, make sure it looks good on WebView and phone.
Make sure it's
and
mobile
tablet.
friendly, please.
Make sure it's mobile friendly.
Please.
Anything else about the social thing or?
No, that's it.
All right, cool.
I think feeds look ugly.
Yeah.
Oh, I think QR codes also look ugly too. I forgot who said it. It was the guy that invented GoPro. Or maybe not GoPro. He was on Shark Tank one time. Gotcha. He said QR codes. Oh, it was I forgot his name. Maybe we'll link him in the description below. Anyway, he invented Uber. That's what he did.
Oh.
Yeah. He said QR codes are the herpes of business. And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
But they are helpful. But like, in my opinion, though, like, don't include them because first of all, if they're looking on their phone, how are they going to scan the QR code? And if they are looking on like the on the site, like why would they want to use their phone to scan the QR code?
Exactly.
Just make it easy.
Yeah. Well, anything on an electronic press kit that you could use a QR code,
Yes.
send them elsewhere, you can do it with a link.
Yes. Yes.
So you do not need QR codes.
Specifically for physical stuff, in my opinion,
Yes.
like if it's like a merch booth or something,
Yes.
that's totally valid in my opinion, but don't do it on your site, please.
No.
I've seen it on sites before. And I'm like, why are we doing a QR code right here? Terrible.
Yeah, no, that is a good note. Next, any press clippings or links, kind of like you mentioned, if you were in past blog posts, papers, any place you've been showcased, give them a link to it so they can scan if they want to, call back to it and build up the credit, SEO, all that.
Yep.
Now, this is another one, assets. You want a location where all of your assets are, and specifically for assets. You're going to want a location for assets. Specifically, they're going to be assets that relate to live performance in this section. You're going to want the broad ones, like Brandon mentioned, that any EPK is going to want to include high-res photos, logos, posters, anything like that. But specifically, if you're going to a venue and you're submitting it to a booker or someone who organizes these showcasings, the technical name of it right now, my brain is not working. I have not much sleep. You're going to want to include like a stage plot, an input list, a tech writer, anything that's really beneficial for a venue to know to make sure they're prepared before you show up, especially if you're on tour and you have back-to-back shows and it's like, hey, we're only going to be able to show up like an hour before we take the stage. So it's so important to give them your stage plot, especially in advance, so they know like, hey, this is what we're going to expect. This is what we need. This is how we're going to set up. So as soon as you show up, all the mics are on the stands, the inputs are all listed, you know that they have it under control, they know that you have it under control, and you can just be really, really efficient on there. So that's really important to include as well. And then the last thing I have is contact info.
Yeah.
Now, this is specifically more so than just, here's my email address, here's my phone number. This is for everyone on your team. Anyone who they might need to contact with. This includes any promoter, like the promoter you're working with or any promoters you've been working with. If you have a lawyer for your band, you're going to want to give them their contact information in case something happens. Now they have your lawyer's contact information. Your manager, who's keeping track of everything, so they can reach out to any questions about input list or anything on the tech writer or whatnot. And anything else, any other person that is a part of your crew, part of your group, you're going to want to put their contact information in there. Now, this isn't necessarily, this isn't just, here's my phone number.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
If someone is involved, they should be able, and then you might need to be contacted. It's important that you put them.
Yes. And by the way, like we were kind of saying, it's all about how it's presented. So if you are so inclined to want to fake an alias email, like let's say you do, like I have help at Studio 222, it all goes to me, right? But like it's presented a little bit better. So you're not just emailing me the whole time. So if you have like management at thisbandname.com or you have press at thisbandname.com, it'll all funnel into the same email.
Or podcast at musicmakerscookbook.com.
Email us, reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you think about our podcast, or just hear from you in general. And if this works for you, then
I miss you. Why don't you ever talk anymore?
Yeah, why don't we talk anymore?
Why don't you call anymore?
Yeah. Why is that? Why is that? No.
Tell me.
But if you want to present it like that with emails, you can make aliases through your domain and it'll all still funnel to the same email. Just make sure you respond accordingly. Just another little tidbit of a tip if you wanted to go that route, but it's totally not necessary.
Yeah. So that kind of concludes everything that I think you need on an EPK, specifically when presenting to a venue or an event booker. These are very important things to have and make it. That's a good general order of a way to put them, move things around, see what works for you, record a good live video. But EPKs are great. It's a great way to put yourself out there, to give them all the information they need. But like a cold calling and sending EPKs is never really like a good way to do it.
Yeah.
The best way to get into any venue, no matter how good your EPK is to go with a band that has already performed there that you want to perform with and try to work out a show together with them, or work with a promoter that promotes that venue and put together a show of multiple musicians, most that have performed there, have a history there, so you can kind of get in there and it's it's less of a risk for them to accept you because you're with other bands that they know that we're going to get people showing out for. We're going to have a return on our investment. That's always the best way to get in.
Exactly.
Any local venue, any smaller club, that is the best way to get started.
Agreed.
And as you grow from there, you can do other things, but that's just the best way to get in.
Yep. I have one small little caveat I want to add to this real quick, if you don't mind. Doing an EPK is like doing a creative audit for your band or your brand or your artistry or whatever. And it forces you to go back through your content and to evaluate what you need to work on possibly, or what is finite, or whatever the case may be, right? So this actually forces you to go back and say, hey, I'm doing this. Look at these photos from 2 years ago compared to these photos now. Look how much better these photos look because we hired somebody different that fit our style. Or look at how well this biography is written compared to what I started out with writing it myself, or something along the lines of that. So EPKs are useful for things beyond what Sean and I are talking about.
Yes.
It forces you to sit down and look at objectively, what does this, like, what do I like from this? And what do I not like from this? And what do I need to change moving forward? Because then that will actually give you a little bit of insight into your entirety of the brand itself. And it's a good way to audit yourself and keep yourself in check. So that's why I do recommend doing this. I know Sean and I were saying we update our portfolio. I will update my portfolio quarterly, but Sean updates his portfolio quarterly. I would encourage it a little bit more frequent than that for maybe bands and brands, if you're able to, right? If you're able to. But you should be doing it at least quarterly if you can.
Yeah. If you don't want your 2-year-old promo photo
exactly
on your EPK when you guys no longer dress like that, or if you've changed style of music, or you have 2 albums since then. You want to make sure it's up to date.
Exactly. So I just wanted to put that little caveat on there, and there is like a holistic thing about this that does allow for you to kind of see like your band brand audit. So
all right, so I guess the final thing we're going to say is, if you're good to kind of bring to the close. This is a decent sized episode.
It was.
Hopefully it was some helpful information for you guys. Now it's easier for us to say it since we have done research on it than it probably is for you to listen to it and get an idea of exactly what we're talking about. So what we're going to do is, it's not going to be out at the time of this podcast is posted, but we're going to be working on it. And eventually it will be a link in the description and the podcast notes of examples of different kinds of EPKs. Brandon and I are going to work together to build just basic ideas of styling, layout, whatnot. And we're going to use Music Makers Cookbook as kind of the band in the scenario. So we'll have, an example of, this is where you want to put your assets. This is the where you're going to want to put your photos, the bio, whatnot, so that later on, you can, if you're listening to this in the future, we're releasing this in early August 2023. So probably at least by 2024, if you're listening to this in the future, it will be in there. So check it out. If you don't have an EPK and you want an idea of what one looks like, it's going to be really basic, but just structured, and this is all the information you're going to need. So feel free to check that out.
Totally. And I know Sean was saying that we might make one for the Music Makers Cookbook, but if you have an EPK that you haven't built out yet and you want us to maybe take a look at it, just email us. We'll consider it. Like, this isn't like a apply thing, but if you do want us to work together, let us know. We'll take into consideration all the aspects and everything that kind of goes into it, and we'll let you know a decision. But yeah, I think that'd be I think it'd be a ton of fun. At the baseline though, we will do one for ourselves.
Yes.
We will create our own band.
Yes.
It's going to be fucking awesome. It's going to be awesome.
Oh yeah. Just as an example of, this is the template. This is kind of what you need to look like. And it's going to be consistent with our branding. So you see, hey, if it's consistent, this is what it's going to look like. And that's the best way I can think of us creating one that can be a good showcase of what it looks like.
Absolutely.
So check that out. With that said,
that's gonna be fun.
Is there anything else you want to add, Brandon? Any extra spices you want to throw in? You want to top with any herbs before we dish it out?
No extra herbs and spices for me, man. I think we went through the whole entire cabinet with this one.
Sweet. It's cooked just right the way it is.
Just right.
So with that being said, from our kitchen to yours, thank you for dining with us. Time to get cooking.
Bon appetit.